Welcome. Welcome to tonight's Board of Ed meeting, where we're going to discuss the budget, which is one of the most important agenda item we have in tonight's agenda. And Mrs. Lambert, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Lambert. Next on the agenda, we have the minutes for 3 of our meetings. If any had time to look at the minutes, and any revisions or errors?
Move to be approved.
Need a second? All those in favor?
I'm abstaining.
You abstain. Thank you, Mrs. Lambert. And next on the agenda, we have public comment. We have Mr. Al Korzinski. Sorry, I didn't allow you to sit.
Is it right here?
Yes.
All changed. I'm a little confused over there. Hello, I'm Al Korzinski, parent with a parent of 3 children in the school system and 2 nieces, which I always forget who are in the high school. I'm just my public comment. Do I have to talk about what's on this agenda, or I can just say whatever I want as far as public comment?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I'm just here as a parent and as a member of a couple SGCs and other volunteer stuff I realize that there are budget things here on the agenda and action items, and kind of as I said last year, I hope the budget process goes smoothly. I'm hoping that there's a lot of folks who turned out last fall to finally get the budget approved, and it's in my belief that when there are a core group of us who believe in the budget put forth, who understand what's at stake, we'll put the energy in and we'll provide the numbers to get a budget passed. We know that there's a core group of folks who, regardless of what the budget is, it could be at a negative 0.5, and they would still say no the first time. So I hope that folks keep that in mind when they are looking to take action on a budget. But the folks who can get the people out to go and help get the budget passed want to believe that the Board of Ed and certainly our central office are here for our kids. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else that has not signed in would like to speak? Okay, moving on. Reports, Dr. Garcia.
Good evening to all our parents and invited guests. It's really a pleasure to see all of you guys here tonight. Thank you for coming. So I'm going to start with recognition, and we have a lot to celebrate today. But first, I'd like to start with recognizing Sweeney Elementary School. As the board is aware, on February 28th, the State Department of Education released the Accountability Index. And the index is a report card that served as a tool to celebrate successes of school and also to look at areas of improvement. Sweeney Elementary School was noted as a school of distinction, or received the award of the school of distinction. There are 12 indicators to major school. Some of them pertain to elementary, some to high school. Student achievement data, meeting their target growth, absenteeism at graduation, etc. But we are very honored that Sweeney was in the top 10% of all schools in the state to be recognized as a school of distinction. So at this time, I would like to call Mrs. Angela Kiss. Please come up.
These things ought to be.
And I'm not going to because there's a mic here. But I would like also, before you start, to introduce your teachers and your parents.
Okay.
And your students.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce our students that are here that were kind of elected by their teachers as kids that did an awesome job on last year's SBAC, which was what got us that great growth to be a school of distinction. So our 5th grader, Ruby Hernandez Trinidad, and her family.
Come on, Ruby.
4th grader, Cameron Hayes and his family. 4th grader, Anna Moran and her mom. And 5th grader, Leonardo Ramos and his family. And 4th grader, Peter Moranis and his family. We have 3 of our teachers who are all teach in SBAC years. 3rd grade teacher, Janice McCusick. And my 2 5th grade teachers, Emily Mallon and Jennifer Hobath. Our cook manager, Cindy Barano.
Cindy.
We've got to feed these brains. You know?
Definitely.
And Jill Hill, reading tutor from SUNY.
So my students, I want to say, your superintendent is so proud of all of you. So I know that you will take this message back to all your friends at Sweeney tomorrow. That's correct? We are so proud of all of you. Yes, this was an achievement test, but this is more than a test. It tells us that you can do the work, that you're outstanding, and that you will achieve whatever you want to achieve. To the teachers at Sweeney Elementary School, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your feedback. And thank you for dealing with all the initiatives that we're putting together. But you've seen the result, our students. And to Ms. Angela Kiss, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being a team player. And thank you for keeping the focus and moving to excellence for our students. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to present this to you. And it said here, I don't have my glasses.
Okay. It says the dedication to the mission and vision of Wyndham Schools resulting in improved student achievement. Congratulations on being named a school of distinction by the state of Connecticut for the school year 2015-16. One thing, and it's about these people that are up here and all the other ones that are back at Sweeney. That really, this all comes from having a huge belief in 2 different things. The belief that these kids and all of their friends can do it, and the belief that I have that these teachers know that they can teach them how. So that's how we got here.
So we have a lot of recognition tonight. I want to start by, can't see. Recognizing some other students from Wyndham Middle School. Isabel Perez, we want to recognize her. I don't think she's here tonight, but Isabel Perez is moving to the Math Count competition for the state of Connecticut. So we want to recognize her, and it took place already in February 4th in New London. So she has a team of students that went with her, but she was recognized as the leader of the team. We also want to recognize Brian Rentas from Wyndham High School. He also won a silver medal in the 2017 Connecticut Scholastic Award. And we want to recognize parents. 4 parents graduated from the Common Sense Parenting session that took place recently on March the 2nd. The Banat Barrows joined the Banat Eastern Connecticut University, and we want to recognize them also. Noah Paris, a 5th grader, won the poster for fire safety, and we want to recognize them also.
Are they here?
they're not here
Oh, they're not.
tonight, but we want to recognize them. We want to recognize Mr. Bill Stover. He's not here tonight, but he testified at the State Department at the Legislative Office Building on behalf of the after-school program. And Dr. Youngberg will be presenting tomorrow at a conference, Moving from Compliance to Coherence, with her colleague from Bloomfield, Dr. Silva, and we want to thank you for representing the district. And Dr. Garcia will be presenting at the 13th at the Legislative Building, the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, our initiative and reading. So we have lots of things to celebrate in the district.
Thank you.
Next thing on my list is the MAVE conference. MAVE stands for Massachusetts Association of Bilingual Education, and we're very honored that this year Wyndham Public School will be hosting the MAVE conference. That basically is a New England conference for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New England, and Connecticut. This is the first time that Wyndham will be hosting this conference on March 25th. We have about 150 teachers and administrators from around the New England area that will be attending the program. The program will take place at the middle school, but they will also be visiting North Wyndham School. And Wyndham was selected because of the program that we have, the Compañeros program, and because of the impact that the Compañeros program is having, and that's the reason why Wyndham was selected from other schools across the state. The professional development, as you know, we're having a very, I will say, impressive professional development on March 10th. You have a copy of the program in your packet. We invite you to attend. I heard that there will be some snow that day, I'm not sure. But if not, we invite you to attend. There's always something that boards can learn from the professional development that we're giving to our teachers and our administrators. And we have one for Paris and one for also for certified staff. The Alliance Coherence Audit, I just briefly mentioned it to Mrs. Osuba, mentioned it to you, and I would like to introduce Mr. Andrew Lackman that is here from Connecticut, from Lead Connecticut, visiting us today. As part of the Alliance project, school district in the Alliance network are participating in a coherence audit facilitated by Lead Connecticut. Our audit will take place the week of March 13th through the 17th, but actually it starts today with the visit of Mr. Lackman, and then on Friday with another visit of someone that will reviewing or attending our professional development. This audit is about achieving coherence, and I will say to you, achieving coherence is very messy, and it's hard work, and it doesn't happen overnight. But it's very, very important to achieve coherence in school. Now we know, based on research, that there are some elements that need to be in place for a school district to achieve coherence. And if we achieve coherence, then we can improve student achievement, and the school district can move to another level. We're happy to have Mr. Lackman with us tonight, and we're happy to be part of this audit. We know that this audit will help us definitely give us some ideas and some practices and will guide our improvement. So I just want the board to be aware. And if you'd like to be part of it, please come during the week of the 13th through the 17th. Accountability Index, I think Mr. Neal here, is Neal here? Okay, Neal. Okay, as I said before, on February 28th, the Connecticut Department of Education released the 2015-2016 Accountability Index report for the district. This index is in accordance with federal and state law and meets all those requirements. There are 12 indicators of this index, and I asked Mr. Neal, our Director of Accountability and Research, to give the board a brief description of this report. Neal?
Okay, good evening. This is just the highlights. It's a very abbreviated overview of the index. As Dr. Garcia mentioned, that the report came out last Tuesday, so we wanted to make sure as quickly as possible to report this to you. Okay, so the report card, which is in the second year, I call it a report card, but it's basically a comprehensive index of 12 different indicators for a district. This is the second year, and this year, the second indicator of growth was included. It wasn't included the first year because we didn't have 2 years of SBAC data to have growth or record growth. So I'm going to quickly go through the 12 indicators, and then once we get through, point out some highlights of the district and the schools that we made. We had a lot of nice highlights where we exceeded the average index of the state of Connecticut, and I always think when we do that, that's something to celebrate and recognize. So the first indicator is achievement, and what this is, it's the average score in the index in either ELA, math, or science, and there's two categories for each subject. There is the all students, meaning every student in the district, and then there's the high needs students category. The high needs students category really represents this. If a student is an English learner, or a student with a disability, or eligible for free reduced lunch, any or combination of those three, they are considered in that group, and those are two different categories that the state records the information from. So those are the two pieces of information. So another thing here is when you get the reports that we see in the newspaper in the late summer, early fall, those are based on proficiency ratings, the percentage of students that make level 3 or 4. This index score, this indicator, is basically where a student's score fell on an index from the lowest obtainable score to the maximum attainable score. And so they take the average of those scores, and that's how the index is formed. I know that's riveting stuff. It actually is very riveting to me, but that's how we get it. I know. Okay. And actually, before I continue, growth, which, by the way, the District of Wyndham really did very well on. And I was looking forward to this particular indicator for this very reason. So what growth does, it takes where the student was in year 1 of the administration of the test. Then, in the second year, it looks where the student was compared to that first year. This is compared across, I believe, there was 182,000 students in the state of Connecticut that had this cohort growth. So based on where the student was, and that's how they determine the growth target, how much growth is expected. And they have a formula that the performance office used, which they used a 40 percentile of students. What they achieved last year in each group, wherever they scored, was the new goal for all 100% of students. In many, many categories, many grade levels, many subjects, and we'll show here, the district outperformed the state, and especially in the high needs category. It was something to definitely celebrate, and when we shared with the principals, it was good news. And then indicator 3 for participation, that's not really factored in the score, but the expectation of the state is that 95% of our students are taking all our state assessments. We have no problem with that. Our schools usually fall somewhere between 98-99% of participation. Indicator 4 is chronic absenteeism, which is when students are absent 10% or 18 days out of a full school year, or 10% of the days that they are a member of the Wyndham school system. So that is calculated basically just on that rate for both all students and high needs students. Indicator 5 is specifically for high schools. That's college and career readiness preparation. And this indicator is really the participation of students that take one of these classes during their career at the high school, or potentially in 8th grade. And then indicator 6 is on those exams for qualifying courses, percents of students getting a certain score on those exams. So those two, sometimes you'll see a higher score on the participation than the pass rate. Indicator 7 is the students on track for graduation. This actually affects 3 of our schools in Wyndham. It obviously affects our high schools, the percentage of 9th graders earning at least 5 full year credits in the year, and no more than 1 failing grade in one of the 4 core courses listed there. However, grade A also is scored on this from the previous year, and the idea is to promote the transition from 8 to 9, so their scores are impacted here. And then indicator 8 is the 4-year graduation rate, and in grade 9 is the 6-year graduation rate. Of note, the official 2015-16 rate hasn't come out yet. We have an estimate, but it hasn't been officially released. I think it might happen this month, if not next month. However, so these calculations have last year's rate. Indicator 10 is post-secondary entrance, the percentage of the graduating class that entered a 2- or 4-year post-secondary institution anytime during the first year after high school. Indicator 11 is physical education. This is among all the schools. It's the phys ed test. The main qualifier is if they pass the certain number of the exams or the tests. However, there's a participation rate that affects, so if you have a high participation rate, you get full credit, but if you have lower numbers, you're not given full credit for your pass rate for the building. And then indicator 12, which is specifically a grade 9 through 12, is students that are participating in at least one dance, theater, music, or visual arts course in the year. So as I said last year, and as you can see from the indicators, this is a lot more comprehensive than the past indices, which were specifically just about student performance and student achievement, which is still a major factor, but not the only indicator. Okay, so here are the accountability index scores. I included the last year and this year's scores, and you can see across the two different scores. I purposely did not use the word change or increase or decrease. I saw in some, I read a Connecticut newspaper in a different part of the state was doing changes. I didn't feel using the word change was appropriate only because we didn't have the growth indicator last year, so that's a whole indicator that wasn't included. So these numbers are different. You could see if they're greater or less than last year, but they didn't have the growth target, which so that could have an impact. However, if you see Charles Barrows with 79.8%, or as their index, Sweeney at 77.8, and Wyndham Public Schools at 67.6. Just to note, Wyndham is in Durg I, 7 districts with similar demographics. We've talked about this reference group. They had the highest index score in the reference group for the second year in a row. That's, I think, noticeable and worth mentioning. Also, you can see that the scores from last year compared to this year, again, noting the indicator 2 wasn't calculated last year.
Neil? And for Barrows, is that just Wyndham students calculated or the entire school?
No, that's all, that calculates the population of Barrows, Wyndham schools, Wyndham students, and
Sedgwick students.
That's correct.
Thank you, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And actually, as you said that, Mrs. Lambert, you bring up a good point, that indicator 9 that I mentioned. So in grade 8, wherever the students go to high school, that impacts, so if they go to school in Wyndham or a different district, that impacts the grade 8 students for that indicator 9. It's wherever they go to high school, whatever their grades are, wherever that is, whether that's at our high school or anywhere else in the state of Connecticut. So actually, that was a good question.
Thank you.
Okay, when I made this presentation last week, it was literally a Tuesday, I think at 2 o'clock, right after this got released, and I didn't know Sweeney would be here, but as you can see, I was a premonition. Congratulations. And obviously, the notable reason they did this, their growth was among the top 10% of all schools in Connecticut. That's every school in Connecticut. That's a very impressive feat. And that's for all students and high needs students, and as Principal Kiss and I have both noted, they don't have a non-high need subgroup, that's worth noting. Okay, turnaround and focus schools. For the second year in a row, Wyndham has no turnaround schools. I think that's another feather in our cap. I'm proud of that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And then, we do have, in the same status as last year, 2 focus schools for the ELA subject, and that is Wyndham Middle School and Wyndham High School, and how that is calculated after the turnaround schools are configured. They look at specifically performance in the high needs category, high needs students, and they look at the next 4% that are not considered turnaround schools, and they identify those schools in the state. And so we have 2 currently, and we're hoping to get them off the list for next year. Okay, here are some highlights of the indicators. In indicator 1, achievement, as you can see, Barrows actually outperformed the entire state of the Connecticut index for ELA, had a higher than the state average. For the high needs groups, we had 4 schools, Barrows, Sweeney, North Wyndham, and Wyndham Center outperforming the high needs index. This is the sheer proficiency level being at levels 3, or actually on the index where they fell. Not where they fell, but where the students scored, excuse me. I knew what I meant in my head, but that sounded weird, sorry. Okay, I digress. Okay, so math. So for math, I'll try. That won't happen, though. Okay, so for math, we have an index score of 61.4 for the state. Barrows exceeded that in math as well. And then we also had, you had all our schools that service elementary children outperforming the high needs indicator in math for achievement. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's clap away. And then Barrows outperformed the state in achievement for science. So our growth indicator, which we mentioned, you could see it was getting this in here, you could see a lot of our schools were outperforming. Actually, as a district, we outperformed in growth the state average for ELA in high needs and in all students, and that goes for Sweeney and Barrows and North Wyndham and Natchog, and Wyndham Center did so for high needs. So kudos to the schools. Not to just keep repeating all these names, but these accolades are great. You can see that the trend continues in math. And then when we get to chronic absenteeism, Barrows has a lower rate than the Connecticut state average. And then you notice that the 3 schools here have a lower rate than the high needs students rate of 15.6. That's Barrows, Natchog, and North Wyndham. And then preparation for college and career readiness. The high school and therefore Wyndham as a district is higher than the Connecticut rate. You notice a slight difference. That's because the Wyndham Public Schools also includes private outplaced students, so there's like a difference in population, albeit a small one. You have a indicator 9 and 6-year graduation rates. We exceeded the state for the high school and Wyndham Public Schools. Remember, that's from the 2015 calculation. And then in phys ed for participation, you can see that we had 5 of our schools in the district outperform the state participation rate. In North Wyndham and Sweeney actually exceeded the state rate for the actual passing the exams. And then in Art Access, the high school, again, for the second year in a row, has exceeded the state average. So now that I took you on that little index odyssey, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Yes.
So I'm glad you showed us the individual things, because the overall index seems to me to be a mishmash of apples, oranges, bananas, and pears. I mean, I know that there are bureaucrats in Hartford that spend hours and hours trying to figure out how to combine these things together, but I don't see any justification. It's not arbitrary.
So our approach as a district, even though we showed all that, is what's nice about the different indicators, a school should look at each and look at their
Exactly.
successes and look at areas where they need to improve. And it's, in that sense, it's more comprehensive. But yes, I agree. Like
Yeah,
looking
the
at
reason we're doing well on the overall is because we're doing well on the components.
right, and
So it doesn't matter how they combine them.
right. I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. That just goes to show that our district is moving in the right direction, and we're improving in all the areas. And that goes to show, thanks to our superintendent and the administrators and the staff, that we're making improvement. We're no longer going in the wrong direction, we're going in the right direction. And during the budget season, which we're right now, that should be a clear indicator why we need the money we need. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Great presentation.
Let folks have an opportunity to have.
We have homework for tomorrow. School night.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to inform the board that the recruitment for the ACO program has started for the 2017-18 school year. As you know, this is our early college opportunity program. We currently have about 68 students in the program. This will be our cohort number 3. And so we have outreach to St. Joseph, St. Mary, and some other schools that have showed interest in coming to our school. And we'll have another recruitment night at the middle school at the end of this month. But we want to invite all the board members to attend as part of this, the ACO program, the fixer-upper. We'll have bankers, realtors, and contractors and community members attending this project. So hope that you'll be able to attend.
When is this?
It's in somewhere late April, early May. Before the school is over. So
Dr.
we'll-
Garcia, may I ask why we're waiting so late in the year to do the recruitment for ECHO?
No, they
And
have
why-
been-
Wait, may I finish? And why the high school hasn't had an open house for 8th graders?
Well, I'm not aware that the high school has an open house, but if you said so, I will follow up with
That's
that.
what
I
someone
will
told
definitely
me,
follow
so-
up with that. The recruitment for ACO started earlier, but not in large scale. So they went to St. Mary, they went to Barrows. So they have done some recruitment, but in smaller scale. Now they're doing it in larger scale, meaning having the parents come to the meetings. What they did before was meeting at the school with the different students.
Well, just the tech school and other schools, magnet schools, have already closed their application process. So
Right.
a lot of the students are probably opted to go somewhere else if they're going to. And I know it's been a big push of this district to get students to come back, come to their home school, stay at Wyndham High School, save us on the tuition, and help us to make a more robust high school. If we're waiting until mid-March to start doing serious recruiting for a program that's supposed to be stellar, I think it's a disservice to people who are running this program into the district to wait until March when tech school has theirs in November, I think, late fall, and lots of the magnet schools' application processes have already
January.
closed, so they've already, in January or early February, so they've already gotten all their applications in, and these students haven't seen what we have to offer or had a presentation about what we've had to offer. I heard from an 8th grade parent that they haven't heard that much from the high school, if anything at all, for next year, and that's a concern.
You're totally right. It started very late, and I'm very disappointed with the high school for starting this late. I do know that a couple of months ago, they met at the middle school and at Barrows and at St. Mary. So we do have, I know currently we have 10 applications from students from St. Mary. I know that. So, but they did not really go in force or have a robust recruitment strategy for the student at that particular time. So now we're meeting with parents, so the recruitment is more tailored to parents. The meeting at Barrows was basically for parents, and they're having another one for parents. But you're totally right. I'm disappointed that they started this late.
Thank you.
In the packet, for your information, you have budget outreach opportunities and events for 2017. We already started some of these. Some of them already been done. You saw the one that we have in yellow. Margaret, these are the one that we have to replace? Margaret, the ones in yellow? Yes. Are the one that we have to replace, but we are already making plans to replace some of them. One of the activity event that I think is very important is a meeting with the HGC. So I did send out an invitation to Wyndham Center HGC. They hosted a meeting last year, and they, I believe the invitation, they said yes, they will host another meeting with all the HGC again this year. Wyndham Center HGC is a very, very supportive HGC and understand the dynamics of the budget process very, very well. And so last year, we were able to have lots of parents attend that HGC meeting. So they said yes, and we thanked them, and so we're having another meeting with the HGC that will be hosted by Wyndham Center. And we're meeting with the home liaisons, we're meeting with some community members on Friday. So here we have another list of events. This is not all. We're having also a big meeting with members of the community and our staff regarding budget strategies. We didn't do this one last year. And then we have some important parents, Mr. Al, I don't know if he left, that, oh, he's right here, that I did send him an email, he hasn't returned my email yet, telling him that he was crucial last year.
Let's all look at Al now.
I read it.
You read the email, and so we want him to, he spearheaded last year a group of parents that really was critical in passing the budget. So we want to ask him again to spearhead that group. He had some great ideas, so I'm putting him on the spot right now.
He
and-
put an offer out on Facebook to invite people to it, so
Yeah,
he's taking care of
he
it.
can, we can put him to lead a project, and he can get the people moving, so
Well, you know, I don't know, sir, I'm not sorry.
So he spearheaded and led that project last year, so we hope that he will do it again this year. So these are, you know, all the things that we're planning for the budget. Before we go to budget discussion, I do want to take the opportunity to congratulate and thank the board. March is Board Member Appreciation Month. So on behalf of the staff, the central office, you have some little cups there from the ECHO program and some candy. So we want to thank you for your service to our school district and to our students, and we appreciate what you're doing. You know, we know that this is not a paid job, so really thank you for your service and to the community. Madam Chair, so now we can enter the budget discussion. This is the night that you, on the agenda, on the calendar to approve the budget, but before approval of the budget, we do have a budget discussion.
Correct. But we have committee reports on the agenda.
Okay, you want to do committee report first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So next on the agenda, we have committee reports.
Policy?
And then you have a
First
policy.
reading?
You have a first reading.
I'm
of
sorry.
policy.
First reading.
First reading of the revised board policy.
Reference check, we missed reference check there.
Yeah.
Reference check.
Okay.
have the
It's revised, it's reference check.
So do you want to leave that to your report for policy committee?
Yeah, that's fine, because it's the first reading that is going to the board.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So committee reports. Mr. Sewell, Finance.
Finance and Audit has not met as a subcommittee. We have hosted the budget workshops leading up to the budget referendum this evening, or the budget, vote this evening.
Discussion, okay. School planning and design, Mr. Kalajian is not here today. I know Mrs. Lambert attends the meetings quite often.
Yep.
Can you brief us on what you're doing in that committee?
At the last meeting, we discussed more about moving the Compañeros program to the middle school, some technical difficulties that might arise. Dr. Garcia and I are going to meet and have a discussion about that, because other than Dr. Sewell, I'm the only member that was on the board, I think, through the entire NatJog, moved to the middle school and moved back. And some just not programmatic, but managerial issues came up during that time, and we want to make sure to address them before they rear their ugly head when we have a school permanently inside of a school. So that was the gist of the discussion. Mr. Roach had some drawings and some schematics for us to take a look at. We made some suggestions and adjustments, and he's going to go back and talk to Mr. Donaldson. Dr. Garcia suggested that Mr. Roach herself and Mr. Donaldson also do a walkthrough of the spaces. So that's what we discussed at the last meeting.
If I may add, we also are planning to have a meeting with the parents of Compañeros. I think we're scheduled for the 28th. Janet, is the 28th we're scheduled? The 28th, so we're having to have a meeting with the parents from Compañeros, just to start giving them some information about where their feedback, first of all, get their feedback, get their concern, and also where we're headed, and what are the consideration of the board regarding space. Now, I did ask Mrs. Lambert to meet with me, because she has, except for Dr. Sewell, she was here when they were at NatChog, so she can tell me what were the pro and cons during that time, and those are things that we need to address. But I do want to remind the board that we're not talking about a program at the middle school. We're talking about really a school in a school, so they want to have their own entrance, their own principal, et cetera, et cetera. So a little bit different when the roof collapsed at
Right, that's what I said.
And you guys have to
We're
move over there, yeah.
It's a
yeah.
permanent condition, not a temporary emergency.
Meaning kids will have to go out and play, and not going to have lunch in their room and things like that. So-
Right.
But still, we want to hear from the parents, and we want to give them an opportunity. So we scheduled it for the 28th
Of
Thank
March?
you.
of March.
Do you have a time?
6:30? 6:30,
Can you put it in a weekly update?
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Policy committee, Mr. Flores?
Yes, we're working in the policy employment checks. You guys had the first reading for today in your package. And also, we're working on other type of policies for the legislation that just came up, a new one, the alternative education policy, and the graduation requirement that we're still working on it, where we're still waiting for a few more information for Chipman and Whitman.
Okay. Thank you. The executive committee has not met, so I believe that we have a tentative meeting for next week. And next on the agenda is action items. First one you have is recommended approval for second reading of the Wyndham Public Schools calendar, which is reference 2.
Recommend we approve the Wyndham Public Schools calendar for, that's 2/17/2/18, isn't it?
217, yes, 217,
Yeah.
218, yeah.
That's not what it says in the
That's not what it says on the agenda.
15,
I believe
so-
that's a typo in the agenda.
On the agenda is a typo, but in the
Yes.
packet, it has the correct date.
It's the correct, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
the
it's-
dates are correct for 2/17.
yes, yes.
So it's 2/17.
So I move we approve the Wyndham Public Schools calendar for 2/17/2/18.
Second.
Thank you.
I did notice one thing. This is a regional calendar, correct?
Yes.
The good news is that Three Kings Day falls on a Saturday in 2018 and a Sunday on 2019. What are we going to do in 2020?
Okay, let's wait till we get there.
Let's
wait till we get
If we get into this regional calendar thing, that's going to become an issue, and I don't think it'd be a good idea to wait until, we don't have to solve it tonight, but I think people need to be aware of the fact that if we adopt a regional calendar, we follow the state on that when Three Kings Day falls
On a school
during
day.
during a weekday, that's going to raise an issue. We've gone around this one.
We had a regional calendar last year, and we just added in Three Kings Day.
Yeah,
and
there are some flexibilities on the calendar.
Yeah.
There are a couple days, I believe, 3 days that are flexible. So there are a couple days, like November, the election is not a flexible day, but there are about 3 flexible days. So one of
Okay.
those could be Three King Day for us.
Right.
Okay, so there's more than 180 days accounted for in this calendar?
No, I mean.
How can there be flexible days unless there's at
Students
least
are
more than 180?
There's 180 days for
For
students, but
students.
there's 183 days or something like that for
86
staff.
days.
For staff.
86 days. 86 days for staff.
Okay, thank you, I was close.
Okay, so you can use some of those days for student days if you have
Yes,
to.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just because it's a regional calendar, if we don't have an election in one of our buildings, do we have to take election day off?
Yeah.
Because I know some towns use their schools for election purposes,
But that
but
won't-
we haven't in a few years here in Wyndham, so I don't see why
We have it in our calendar.
we have to, why we can't use that as a flexible day if we needed to.
So let me follow up with that, but I believe the last meeting we have, that's not a day of flexible day, the November 8 calendar. November
Just
8.
curious.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So all those in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. And next is recommendation approval of district participation in the Healthy Food Certification Program.
I make that motion?
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor?
Not that anyone would be
Nobody's gonna
discussing
turn it
against
down.
it, but
Right.
Is
It's an
this some-
annual.
It's an annual,
thing.
right.
Yes, I know.
No Twinkies, no.
Thank you.
Sadly. Probably good for me, I'd eat them.
And now is our approval of our 2016, 2017 Wyndham Public School budget.
Supposed to say 17, 18?
I'm sorry?
it should say 17,
17,
18.
18.
Okay, because that's a mistypo?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No.
Do we have to have a motion in a second before we can have discussion on this topic?
Yes. I need a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Yeah?
No.
Discussion.
I think we're going to have some discussion on this one.
Okay, good. Ms.
Well, the
Lasar?
motion didn't include an amount, which is...
Right.
Yeah, no, this is just for discussion
This
purposes right
discussion.
now.
So what have we got on the floor? A motion to discuss?
Correct.
Correct. It's open for discussion, so go ahead and discuss.
Yes. Ms. Lassard goes first. Ms. Lassard?
Dr. Garcia, can you tell us what you cut exactly to get from 3.4% to 2.99?
Yes, correct. I do have it. Okay.
That wasn't-
Defer maintenance, with defer maintenance for $12,800. Again, maintenance is important, but we defer that. The consensus of the board was not to cut personnel, classroom, so defer that. $167,000 in technology. As we do want to improve technology, we want to get in the 21st century with technology. However, so we want to move that to the board, to the town council. As Dr. Sula,
Board of
Dr.
Finance.
Board of
I'm sorry,
Finance.
Board of Finance.
capital
Mr.
budget,
French
right?
said, what are those one things,
Capital budget?
capital budget, one of those one items?
funds.
Yeah. So we have $167,000, I want to move that. I do.
160?
7,000.
167.
Yeah, I do think that that is very, very, very important as we move to the 21st century. We want our kids to be updated, so I don't want us to leave focus that that is something that we need to work with the Board of Finance. And then we eliminated administrative position, not administrative, but administrative position in central office.
Right. On page 4 of the original, well, the first budget book we
The first.
received, it said that you were, central office administration positions are being combined.
Yeah, so this one here is different. This one is a clerical position,
Okay, and do you know what the approximate savings of that would be?
55,000.
So that was already in the budget book, so
No,
that wasn't,
no, that wasn't in the budget book, right, Chris? The 55
Wasn't
would-
the original 3.8 book?
3.8,
right,
And
so,
then we were asked to take it out.
yeah.
So it was in this book.
Yeah.
it's in this book, so that didn't get us to 2.99, because we had, this was in the 3.88. So if you're already combining clerical,
No. The one that you're speaking about was administrator. This is administrative, this is clerical.
okay,
So two different things. Administrator are directors.
right,
Administrative are clerical.
all right. So in Melissa's question, getting us to 2.99, it was a clerical position.
Clerical
In the
position.
original budget,
It was the
it's
administrator
administrator.
position. Right.
can you tell us what the position is and what the anticipated
Well,
savings would
I
be?
haven't told the individuals yet, but we're combining two areas in central office that can be combined. But I haven't sent it to the public, to the individuals yet, so those want to wait.
How much would be that saving?
Chris, I think it was 107? There is an area that we need to have an administrator, for example, in the alternative education, we need to have an administrator. So instead of hiring somebody for that position, what I plan to do is to have somebody from central office that is already a director do part of that and also the alternative education.
So we're not really cutting an administrator, we're just dual purposing an administrator.
Right, so yes.
So there won't be a savings.
Yes, there will be a savings.
We
Because
have
if
a-
not, we have to hire somebody for the alternative education.
We have an unfunded mandate that we have to do.
I'm aware of that, but we're still going to keep that same person. That line item isn't going to go down under administrator from central office or
Well, but
whatever.
we did put an additional $150,000 for the alternative school, so we have to hire somebody there. So we will not
Right.
spend all that money for to hiring a personnel, a director for that, because we can put somebody from central office there.
Okay. Isn't really savings, but okay.
Okay, I'd like to ask a
Dr. Sue?
couple of questions. Last week, we had some discussion about permanent substitutes. Did we leave them in or take them out, or the budget that you sent us, the digital copy, which is the current version with the, at 2.99, lists a substitute teacher line that's 29,000 something less than last year. So where are we with the numbers of,
In Plan B, budget Plan B, we only took two substitutes out.
yeah, you
In
took
Plan
two
B,
out.
Right.
Okay.
The
that-
rest remain in the budget. In
So
Plan
that, okay, so that got you down to 3.4 when you
Four.
took those two out,
In
right?
Plan C, that is the one that I just presented to you, the 2.99, we did not take the other substitute out.
Okay,
So the only one that came out were the two that came out for Plan B at that time.
And which building did you take those two from?
We didn't the building yet, we just decided to take two out, not building yet. And so what we will do, Mrs. Lambert, is look at the needs of the buildings at the beginning of the school year, look at the data at the end of the school year, and also look at the beginning of the school year and see what schools are in motion,
Okay.
they are in need.
so now the other things, just going through the budget, I can see where due to decreases in grant funding, where the Young Parents Program's cut by 50%,
Yeah.
and after-school program's cut by 50%. I don't see anywhere in the budget where we've made up for that.
Chris, do we put back in? You remember?
We did not add in any resources for that
Okay.
increase.
Yeah.
So, actually, I spent some time this afternoon crunching numbers. And I have an amended version of amendment to offer on the budget total, which I'll get to once we have a budget total on the floor. But I'm proposing that we insert into the budget $18,995, which is the cut in the Young Parents Program, on the grounds that we need to support that program, and we'll spend the money anyway.
What was that number, Dr. Sol?
It's $18,995. If you go through the budget that was sent to us, it's the amount that was cut. So, and in the after-school program, I'm going to propose putting back in or covering the cut, which is $81,693. Okay? And I made the argument last week that if we don't hire those substitute teachers, we're going to spend more on Kelly Services than we're saving. Although, what I did is I looked at last year's budget for substitute teachers, and it was what you've got in the budget is $145,700. So I'd propose adding another $145,700.
For substitute teachers?
That should cover 2 substitute teachers, and that's less than, we were talking 175,000 last week, I think, but it seems to me that if we put 145,700, we'll have enough substitute teachers that we can avoid most of the added expense that we would otherwise pay to Kelly Services.
So adding back those 2.
Adding back those, now,
Well, that doesn't come up to less than 145,000.
well, I actually have a live spreadsheet on my pad here. I'm willing to negotiate on that number to get to a total, but I think the other thing is the alternative education program, which we're going to have to pay for because it's mandated by the state. It seems to me that it's unlikely that it's going to cost us less than it's costing us to educate a student in Wyndham High School, which on page 110 says that that's $14,282 a student. So I just multiplied that by 12 students, which is the current number of students that we would have in that program, and I get $171,384.
Right, and we budgeted 150, but as I explained to Mrs. Lumber, we're planning to use some personnel, particularly at the administrative level, to be part of that program. So what we will be paying would be for more of the emotional and social.
Well, yes, I know, and that's why it doesn't seem to me likely that no matter what you do, that you're going to spend less than it's costing. To begin with, this is when you go to the high school with 600 students, you should get some economies of scale. When you run a small program like this, it's going to cost you more per student rather than the same amount of less per student. I think we're cutting it a little too thin. That's why I would rather go with a higher number.
Well, one of the things, well, if that's the pleasure of the board, I'm happy to put it back in the budget. But what I did was check with some organization, because this is a mandate in Connecticut, is, the organization out there that will provide the services or providing the services, so we look outside of different organizations, and those get a quote from different one, and it's between 150 to 200
For 12 students?
for 12 to 15
Yeah,
students.
between 150 to 200, right.
So we went to the
I came
lower
up with 171,384, but, all right, I mean, round it off to 170, but it's still, that's between 150 and 200. My feeling is that I'd rather not have a hokey budget that doesn't account for money that we're actually going to spend. And I'd like to give the taxpayers an opportunity to vote for what we're actually going to spend rather than playing games with the budget. And especially, I don't want to lowball the budget and then end up scrambling around trying to find money to pay for things that we really have to pay for, or cutting some service that we really don't want to cut. The reason if 9 years ago, before any of us were elected to the board, the alternative high school, or alternative school program that existed hadn't been cut due to budget, and it seemed like the right thing to do at a time, but looking back over 9 years, I think even some of the people who were on the board at the time recognized that was a mistake. We would have been better off keeping that program. You know, there's a way that you can.
Mr. Pabon is nodding away over there. Would have made his life a lot easier.
Yeah, there's a way that you can't, you know, it's penny wise and pound foolish to underplay the budget and then have to spend the money anyway.
Mrs.
I would like
Lambert?
to piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Sewell said. When you're talking about shortchanging us a little bit, on the new version of the budget that we were emailed the other day, it has ECS at the same amount as the previous year, instead of a $1.5 million deficit.
Okay.
Was there something that happened? I have been doing Dollars for Scholars and Sick Kids in the whole 9 yards, so I may have missed something. Was there something from the state that said we are funding ECS at the same rate as last year?
So if I recall the discussion of the board, we had it in the budget originally.
Right.
And the discussion of the last board meeting, we were asked to take it out because we were not sure. Is the governor proposed budget? Is his proposed budget?
It's not going to happen.
Some people believe it's dead on arrival. Since we don't have nothing official that said that will happen or not happen. My take on this is that we will get less than more, definitely. But since that's the governor proposed budget, I don't know when his budget will be approved, I guess June or July or September. So we decided, discussion of the board, to go with currently what we have.
Okay, so what I have is on page 16 of the budget, the paper budget book that we were handed. The top line said, educational cost sharing, projected was $1.55 million less than what it was the previous year. In the new version that we were emailed, that 1.55 was added back in. So we were budgeting for more than what we're possibly going to get instead of less. That puts us at a $1.5 million deficit right off the bat from what we're actually likely to receive.
No,
put the one
no,
page
that's
six.
not going to happen.
No, we didn't put it
And
back
the
in.
reason it's not going to happen
We didn't
is
put it back in.
that this is a statewide issue. This isn't just us, okay?
Right.
I've been before the Appropriations Committee and the Education Committee.
The original book.
And not only did I go to testify on behalf of Wyndham, but if you've ever been there to testify, you know you spend the day listening to everybody else testify.
I've done it.
What's happening with the ECS money is it's a great zero-sum game. And the governor actually proposed to give us more money by moving ECS money around and moving other money around, right? The problem is that while 31 districts get more money, 138 districts get less.
Right.
The just count the noses in the legislature. 138 beats 31. It's
Right, we
just
had
not
this
going to
discussion
happen.
when we had a budget.
So,
I
so
understand
the
that.
legislature is butting heads over it, and what they're going to end up doing, I'll make a $100 bet right now. What they're going to end up doing is they're going to go back to where they've been since 2007 and give everybody, not just us, everybody, the same thing, basic ECS money, okay? The alliance funds, whoop, that stuff's up in the air.
Okay, so that added $1.5 million back into our budget.
Into the general fund budget.
Right.
Okay? If we take a hit, it's going to be on the grant side, not in the general fund budget.
So
You don't know
You're
that.
confident that the ECS funding is going to remain the same as it was last year?
Yeah.
I don't know where you come up with that.
Okay, no,
Let me say something, and I don't know where we're going, but
Mr.
on
Gomez.
page 25 of the new budget,
Yeah, I know.
okay, oh, I just lost.
It says,
But it does account for the 1.5 million less for the ECS, unless in the narrative, that's what it says. I don't know, in the number, it
the one
appears
you
again.
emailed.
yeah,
Right. We should have taken that out, Chris. We should have taken that out, that assumption.
In the narrative,
Yes.
it's there, that we don't have it.
It's not incorrect, it's in his proposed budget.
Budget, right.
Whether or not that's actually
Happen.
pushed into
That's gonna
legislation,
happen?
That's what we're talking about, that there's uncertainty, a great deal of uncertainty from every town in Connecticut about what's going to happen. So it is in his proposed, that's not wrong. We're just saying we don't know, and we're going with a level funding scenario.
Okay, if that's
And I think
the,
that's what Dr. Sewell and everybody else agreed to, that I take that out, leave it
Yeah.
at this, because ultimately what will happen is, the legislature will tell us.
they'll play with the grant money.
I would err on the side of cautious and rather have us consider that money as cut, then come up short later. But if it's the decision of the board and the budget committee chair, then I'm okay with that.
I hope you're
Not
wrong.
comfortable,
I
but-
hope you're wrong in this.
Oh,
one,
I would
because
love to be wrong.
1.5 million would put us in a very difficult spot.
I would love to be wrong, but I'd rather be cautious
Well-
than split the
But
difference
we already
even.
have
Now, the
taken
point that
out.
Mrs. Lambert made is that
Yeah, he put it.
if
and
the
then
town
it was,
votes a budget
4.9 acres.
before we know what the legislature's doing, and then the legislature cuts money out of the general fund side, the ECS
The
side.
town is on the hook for
The
it.
town is on the hook for it. That's a problem. But the reason that I'm not overly concerned about that is that we're in a boat with about 169 other towns in the same, and in fact, the way the governor's budget is set up, we've got less of a difficulty than 130 of the 169 towns. And if it should happen, weirdly enough, that something like the governor's budget happens where they take money out of general ECS and then redistribute it to us in grants, we'll find a way to make the town whole on that. We'll have to.
Okay, well, he said he's going to do
We
it.
didn't put it.
He said he's going to do it, but he doesn't get to do it. It's the legislature that gets to do it.
Okay.
It's the same thing happens at the national
It's
level.
actually a conservative posture, because if we put the 1.55 in as a cut, we'd have to put the other proposals in that are offsetting it on the special education side. And those happen, we can all have a party, because they say that Wyndham is the recipient of $7.2 million
We have the
in
highest
special
number.
education money.
Your lips
That they
to
would
God's
phase-
ears.
That they would phase out the...
Mr. Pavone is leading that party if we get
Right,
one.
so we'll all go out and party that day if we
Okay.
get the 7.2 million, but we lose 1.55 in the
ECS.
process. The town would lose ECS
Yes,
in the
the town.
process. So what we've done is, we're conservatively saying level funding,
Yeah.
and we'll wait to see what happens with special education, because we don't know.
Okay.
I actually think it's a typo. I actually don't think we're going to get $7 million.
I am
in
slightly
special ed.
uncomfortable with that decision, but I am not a numbers person, as I've touted at many a meeting,
Well,
so I will let you guys have that one. I'd like to second Dr. Sewell's $18,000 for the Young Parents Program especially, because just today I was in the grocery store and parents were stopping me and saying, you can't cut it. I appreciate the response to our questions from last week, and where Ms. Cross said we currently have 12 students and she anticipates 4.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that you have girls running up and, or gentlemen running up and down the hallway saying, I expect to be with child in 6 months, and that number always increases. I asked Ms. Crow at the beginning of this meeting, and she said 4 are returning students, the rest are graduating. So I think that we have to be overtly cautious, and if I may ask Ms. Crow, do you mind? Sure. How many is the average, Ms. Crow?
On any given school year, we service around 15 to 25 students each year, individual students, because kids either start in the school year.
Okay, so 15 to 25 individual students average get served. That is in a 4-year cohort to 100, up to 100 students who otherwise might not graduate from high school because of newly found family obligations.
So we could
I'd
find
like to-
18,000.
18,
Right, I would like to second that. The other thing, page 18, the 21st Century CLC Elementary/Wyndham High School applying for new. It's going up by $100,000. How likely is this amount? Yeah, get your reading glasses out, I have a couple questions, sorry. And I apologize for not emailing some of these questions, I emailed the ones I had, but these I came across today. I had to man the phones at work, so I got to look at my budget stuff.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
Which one is that one?
What page is that?
Page 18.
19 of the new book, or page, I guess, 18 of the old book.
18 of the old book, correct. It says 21st Century CLC, it's line 545. CLC-elementary/WHS applying for new.
new.
And it said $100,000 this year, $200,000 next year. I don't know where that money's coming from and how likely it is.
Well, that's
losing.
federal money, so there's some likelihood, it's not state. Nancy must have seen a reason to...
This is federal.
That's the 21st Century Grant, Chris.
Yeah.
Right?
21st, right?
The 21st
So it's a
century
federal
grant.
grant.
Yeah.
But I can't, I'll have to give you
have to
more
take a look at
information
that
on
one,
that,
yeah.
because I can't tell you off the bat.
Okay.
If we're betting on something that's maybe 50 or...
Right, well, $100,000 is two-thirds of our alternative school. If that suddenly falls through, now we're even more in the hole than what we anticipated. And conversely, on the very next line, the 21st Century WMS grant, is it year 5 of a 5-year grant?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, it's
Yes.
year 5 of a blank year grant. And that's getting cut by $50,000. I know that this grant was initially put in place and paid for the enrichment and the extended day program. Is that going to be impacted by the cut in this grant?
So we moved enrichment and the extended day to Alliance last year.
Okay,
So
so
it's
Alliance got
Alliance.
cut.
Huh?
Alliance
Alliance
is getting
got
cut.
Alliance got cut this year by $100,000, correct?
And then this got cut by $50,000
Yeah,
according
but we
to.
did, so we did cut some other things in Alliance that we put in there that we didn't use, like some PDs, et cetera.
Okay.
So we paid that out of Alliance.
So enrichment and the extended day will remain in effect for this following school year?
We plan to keep it the same way it is right now. Well, actually, we wanted to extend it, have more days, but we didn't have the money, so we have it in Alliance.
Right, so that won't be impacted by the $50,000 reduction in
As of
this?
today?
As of right now?
Right.
It is not intended that you will cut that
Yeah,
at this
if they
point?
cut Alliance fund, then the different story.
Okay. And then I was at the high school doing the Dollars for Scholars envelopes with the machine, the postage machine in the back, and several staff members, teachers and others, stopped and said they were concerned about the dean being cut to deal with discipline and behavior issues at the high school. And they were also concerned that a security person might be taken from the high school to go deal with the alternative program that we're being mandated to start. And I explained to them that we were mandated to start it, but I didn't know in that $150,000, it really wasn't itemized out for the alternative program. You have now an administrator, emotional, behavioral. Do you have a security person?
We did have a security in that budget.
There's two reasons. One, we're putting these students in the same building as the smallest students that we have, the pre-K students at Kramer. And I think that can work as long as there are strict parameters set up. But two, these students tend to be the ones that chronically act out, which is why they've been suspended and expelled. And I don't want to cause chaos in a building that is fairly calm whenever I've gone in there. So, and they're concerned that you're pulling, or that it is the intent to pull a person from here to go there because this building has the most.
Well, they're ahead of me in that thinking, because I haven't made that decision. There will be security there,
Right.
but I have not even crossed my mind yet where it's going to come from.
Okay.
So, the dean position, we had it on the list, but that was a discussion on the board, remember that night?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys said that the high school didn't need the dean, so we took that out. You guys had 3
Behavior.
administrators.
That's it, surprisingly. That's all I have for right now.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'll just jump in for a second. I think the ECS is going to get cut. I think it's going to be equal distribution across the board, and I think Dr. Sewell's not thinking correctly as far as what the state's going to do. It's 1.7 now is the number I'm hearing, that they're going to have to make cuts or a combination of new tax increases, and I know they're going to try hard not to do any tax increases, so it's all going to be shifted down to the local level. And I know that we got down to 2.99. I want to thank you for getting it down to 2.99, but right now, we're doing the same thing we did last year. We're all of a sudden shifting money back into the budget again.
Well, if you recall, the newspaper said it correctly the next day. The board directed the chief to cut the budget. Those were the words in the newspaper. So I follow your wishes, and this is what you instructed us to
And I
do.
want to thank you for doing that.
We didn't actually vote on that.
No.
What we did is we asked you to...
We encouraged her to come up with a plan C.
Yes.
We asked you to come up with a plan so we could talk about it. We didn't decide that we wanted to do that. We wanted to see how you would arrive at that.
I think the instruction was to get us close to.
To 3.
3 is
3%
possible.
possible, right?
Possible.
Yes. It was how to do that, okay? But in doing so, you left a few things out that we're going to have to pay for. That's my point. All right?
It's easy to take things, put things back. It's difficult to take things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that you have to, and then you hold your breath and hope things work when we are going to pay for the Young Parents Program, we are going to pay for the after-school program, and we are going to pay for the substitute teachers.
So where does that?
So I don't think it's good budget practice to act like we're not going to somehow, just to get to some magic number.
No, what you do...
3 is not a magic number.
You get to the point that you can actually make it work, and this is smoke and mirrors.
No, it isn't smoke
The
and mirrors.
$161,000 $1,000 that's going to the Board of Finance is a shifting of, still, we're trying to get the same amount as we were getting before. It's a shift. It's not an actual reduction in an increase in the budget. Let's make it clear. I hate to hear everybody says you're cutting the budget. Well, it's an increase in the budget. It's a less of an increase than you were looking for. All right? When you look at, if you're saying that you're going to try and get the 3%, you find where it has to come out. You decide what is critical to, it's like being at home. Are you going to pay for oil and put food on the table? When you're stuck with a certain amount of dollars, you have to make a tough decision.
Where did we get stuck with a certain amount of dollars?
No, I'm saying that I know, if it was you, it'd be 8% every year. I'm sorry, Dr. Sewell, but it's incredible that, you know, it's just unbelievable, the situation the state's in, and the town's not
I think we
well.
owe it to the voters to give the voters a chance to decide whether or not the budget ought to be what we need to spend for the school children or less than that.
And that's what you did last year, and how many times?
No, that isn't exactly what we did last year.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. This is deja vu from last year,
Yeah.
Dr. Sewell.
And if we had passed the budget last year, we wouldn't need as much money this year.
Now, so I have a question. So adding, Dr. Garcia, adding the YPP program and the after-school program, which is essential in our district, where would that bring us?
$100,000 more dollars. Chris, how much is that?
Well, I have to,
What,
Dr. Sewell,
3.2?
what does your spreadsheet say? 18,000?
18,908 here.
$100,000 more
The YPP program
on the after-school.
and the after-school
So
program.
just give me the figures.
100,000. 18
That
and
would be
81,693.
18,9,
18,000 and 81,693.
and the after-school program?
81,693.
The Young Parents Program is $5 short of
So if you
19,000.
add the 18,9.
It's 18 or 19,000?
18,995.
It says 19,000 really.
81,693, and you get to 47.
Chris, it's 19,000.
That's 18,995. I gave you the numbers, he's got it.
Yeah. The $5 for an extra box of crayons. Just go.
Then 81,693.
Yeah.
Gets us a total of 47,426,163.
Increased percentage.
Increased percentage. 3.21.
3.2.
Okay. And can you add the substitute teachers?
Which one? We didn't take them out, only two.
You did
then.
not take them.
Only
So you
two
took
substitutes.
two. Okay.
We took two.
You guys want to add the two back?
We're going to end up paying for them eventually,
Okay.
because we're going to hire Kelly Services.
Charlene, how much we pay for
Something in my
Well, I've
experience,
got the numbers that I took out, so you want me to add those two back? in?
Yeah, we have in the list here what we
So
took
that-
out.
You add in,
in my experience, if you put the built-in subs back into the building, ICs and tutors and interventionists don't get pulled to cover classrooms
Yeah.
as much, which then allows them to do their job, which then allows us to do better on those miserable tests. So I think that it's
I think you could-
short-sighted to remove them from the budget unless we absolutely have to.
50,000 back for two subs.
Yeah, right? Yeah, well,
Okay,
two.
so
That's what-
50,000?
Yeah. So we have all this stuff back in the bill, in the
All
budget.
right, so that now is 47,476,163.
Oh, can you say that again?
Can you say it?
47,476,163.
476?
163.
Okay.
And that's an increase of 3.31%, or 3.32%. Just say 3.3%.
Okay, 3.2%. Okay.
But I brought you guys a budget of 3.4.
So we carved, well, you brought us a budget of 3.8, which had everything we need.
3.8, I brought you guys 3.8, that has
Yeah.
everything.
Right. So
What
we
you
asked,
want.
we cut it, and then we had a discussion about what we thought essential things that could not be cut
In our
were.
district.
How many, what is the total number of one-time expenses that were cut that we are sending separately to the Board of Finance, please?
That's the 500,000,
That is
500,
167.
500 plus the one, the
669.
669, yeah.
750, and what does that
Give me
include?
the total number, Chris.
That's what Dr. Garcia said was technology. or one-time add.
167,000.
669, 750, all told.
All
Okay.
total.
We had already carved out
500,000.
550
Yeah.
initially out of the first submission, And then we took out another 167,000 this time around to get to 3% or 2.99, so it's 669,750 is the town ask.
The teachers are complaining that we have the circle of debt in our buildings, that's what they call it.
Circle of death or debt?
Debt.
Death. The little thing that goes around?
The Grim Reaper.
Yeah,
Okay.
I experienced it today. I experienced it today, so I have to get up from my chair and go and come back. So we really, so it's a reality, so we really have to build up, enhance the infrastructure of our technology. And then we want to do some other things with technology.
Oh, your computer died.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying,
Yeah.
circle of death.
Buffering.
Okay.
Oh.
Buffering.
The buffering.
Okay.
Circle,
Yes.
that's what the teachers call it.
Circle is that.
Yes, I got it now, circle of death. I'm thinking sink. I'm like,
Sorry.
something stopped working. Okay, I got it now.
So now we have to figure out if you guys want to vote for 47.
So, can I have clarity, please? How much for 18,995 added back in for the Young Parents Program? 81,993, was that? the correct-
693.
693.
81,693.
81,693 for the before and after school program. And how much for the two subs?
50,000
50,000.
for the total of?
Oh, what's the total change?
$47,476,163,
Yeah.
which is an increase of 3.32%.
Right.
3%.
That's correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I had the right numbers before we go forth and I vote on something.
That's adding.
And the one-time expenses, technology,
Yeah, but they're going to.
669.
669,750.
50, okay.
Did that include the truck that was in there, the one that needed replacing? Is that included in the 669 or no?
That is a separate line item.
That
Okay.
is not included.
That is a separate, this was the stuff we carved out of Brendan's technology. And then the truck, hold on, do I have
The
that?
truck is somewhere else, Chris.
Yeah, I don't have the printout.
I think we
Is it
already
capital?
moved, we moved that to the capital
It's in
budget
capital.
before.
Capital
It's in the
budget.
capital
Okay,
budget.
all right, thank you. Do we have to discuss the capital budget before it's sent and vote on it? Because we haven't even seen that yet.
We brought it, right?
Oh,
We haven't voted on it.
you've seen it, we haven't voted on it.
Yeah, we haven't voted.
And it's not in front of us tonight.
No, it's not on
Sorry,
the
I
agenda.
apologize.
Well, if we have to vote on it, we have to do it before next week. Because it's due next
The
Wednesday,
15th,
Tuesday?
Wednesday.
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 The capital budget is at the same time, Chris, as the other one? The general fund?
Yeah, they should be considered together.
Together, both.
I just thought about that when we talked
Yeah,
about
I'm
one-time
sorry, I thought we
expenses.
had,
Yeah, next Wednesday is the 15th.
I don't know if we included a separate motion last year for the capital budget.
I believe we did, but I'm not absolutely positive.
It should be a separate motion.
Anything we send to the Board of Finance should be approved by us before it goes there, so therefore, we're going to have to schedule a meeting between now and next Tuesday, because it'll have to be in by close of business next Wednesday to the town.
So we need to decide whether we would like to increase adding all the expenditures that we just discussed, which is a 3.32%.
No, we don't.
We need
have
to decide.
We've had a discussion. We do not have,
We don't have a
we don't have a motion
motion.
on
No
the...
motion, but we need to decide.
So I make a motion that we approve the Board of Ed, based on several versions of the superintendent's proposed budget, a Board of Ed budget to go forth to the Board of Finance of $47,476,163.00, which is an increase of 3.32%, and one-time expenses for technology of $699,750.
I thought it was
669.
That's why I said $669,750.
That's a separate item for the capital budget. We don't have to add that to the, why don't we keep the general fund budget and the capital budget as two separate?
But these were one-time expenses not included in the capital
Not
budget.
included, they're not
So
included.
this is not included in the capital
It's not included in
expenditure.
the capital budget.
So this would have to be included to go forward as a separate expenditure.
They're not in this budget proposal either, right?
The 502 would have been included in the capital budget, but you have yet to vote on that, so.
Okay. The only thing that we have to vote on in the general fund's budget is the $47,476,163.
Right.
So why don't we vote on that as one thing and then handle the other things?
Then I take back my motion.
Go ahead and,
I think, Tracy, the misunderstanding might be that the 167,000 we're adding this time around, we had already added 502,750 for Dr. Garcia's technology. We're adding another 167 to get us, that's what got us down to 2.99.
But the conversation was that we want to put that as a one-time item to the board.
Which is different.
So the
That's not-
$669,000 is not included in our operating budget because it's a
No,
one-time
no,
expense. It is
one-time
not
expense.
included in the 47,476
No,
number.
no.
Correct.
Well, it's
But it is
280.
also not included in the capital improvement plan.
The 502,750 is, the 167 is not.
Yeah, but we plan to take that out of there, remember? As a one-item expense for the
So
board.
we'd need to add the 167 to the capital
Okay.
improvement plan before you vote on it to get it down to the town.
Okay. So then all we need to vote on is the 3.32. I
Exactly.
want to make sure that that 669,000 doesn't get lost.
You're right.
Because it's a
Yeah.
pullout, and they're going to look at it separate from the capital
Yeah.
improvement.
I
If we're gonna-
understand your concerns.
If we're going to lump it in with the capital improvement, I just don't want it to be last year, the Board of Finance took our budget and said, thank you very much, give us your one-time expenses. We gave them to them, and they set them aside, and they had to do what they had to do for numbers, I'm not criticizing them, but then completely ignored them and did absolutely nothing with them, and they got caught from the budget in the long run. I want to make sure that we keep this at the forefront, because we need this technology to continue to be
okay. I see
competitive.
what you're trying
So,
to do there.
I would like to make a motion then, if I may again, Ms.
Go
Madam
ahead,
Chair.
yes.
For $47,476,163, which is an increase of 3.32 over the previous year's budget.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Just like to ask one question. If you put the capital in with the regular budget, what does the Board of Education budget truly grow this year, Chris?
If you do that,
Because that is a true expense that the board is spending.
4.78.
4.78? That seems, that's what it is, 4.78. So you're asking the town for a 4.78 increase for the Board of Ed for this year.
No.
Not exactly, because the
No.
capital fund budget doesn't have to raise the mill rate.
Right.
They can come out of,
It
they
is.
can come out of the uncommitted fund balance, which at this point is fortunately larger than it needs to be. That's up to the Board of
Very
Finance
healthy.
about how to raise
It's
the money.
getting down closer to your 12% level that they want to be comfortable with, and then you still don't know what the state's going to do. So we're not taking a very conservative approach whatsoever at this point. Period.
But we're not, the Board of Finance can decide how to fund, or whether to fund, how to fund, and when to fund the capital portion of the budget.
Gee, I never knew that.
So, I mean,
9 years as chairman, I never knew that.
all right, but, so it doesn't have to raise the mill rate, that's the point.
The point is,
If we included it in an operating budget, it would.
It still represents that raise to the townspeople. Whether or not it comes out of their savings or not, it still technically looks like 4.7% mill rate increase, if it goes that direction on an increase. Correct? We're still receiving 4.7% more. Let's just, that you can't jump away from.
We're getting, all right, so we're getting 3.32% more, clearly, because that raises the expenditures and ultimately raises the mill rate and the minimum budget requirement for future years. The capital fund expenditure is a one-time approval, doesn't have to be spent in subsequent years, doesn't have to raise the mill rate, might raise the mill rate eventually if the town has enough projects to spend down the uncommitted fund balance, but there's a lot of if there.
Okay, is it not an increase of 4.7%, no matter how the Board of Finance slices it? Is it not a 4.7%?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, my God.
It's 4.7, it's spending 4.7% more than we spent last year, but we were
Thank you.
underfunded. We were underfunded last year.
Oh, my God, I used to do that for 9 years.
Why does last year,
Underfunded.
actually, we've been underfunded for a long time, right? Why does any particular year have to become the arbitrary baseline?
Okay.
The point is what should we be spending for our school children? That's the question that we want to put before the voters. If the voters don't like it, they'll tell us. But that, I mean, we're trying to do the appropriate thing for the young people in this community. And we've been shortchanging them for a long time.
But,
Okay,
Okay.
hold on.
If I
Mr.
understood,
Montalvo.
if I understood here, the capital budget represent 1.46 increase that you have to add to the regular budget that we have of 3.32 for the total of the 4.78 percentage. And that's what will go to the town of Wyndham. Because they're increasing the regular budget, which is 3.32, and then the capital,
3.32.
yeah, 3.32, and then the capital represent 1.46% increase.
So that's
And then you have
4.7.
both together, that's the, what Chris come out with the 4.78.
4.78.
That's exactly what John French is saying.
But also, you have to remember.
Am I correct?
Hold on.
It's, the baseline's not correct, because last year, we also submitted capital that was cut.
Yeah.
So, we started out with a request of around $500,000 or $600,000, I forgot exactly what, and a lot of it got cut. So, we're about the same going in as far as the request of capital. It's what happens to it subsequently that makes that additional percentage from 3.32 up to 4.7. It's up to them to decide whether or not they want to fund that, and then that decreases our baseline again, and then when we go and ask for it the following year, it looks like a lot more than it really is.
Okay, so
Does
some
that
of,
make sense?
some other projects that were in the capital improvement last year that did not get funded, so we'll put them back again this year because they were not funded last year. If you recall, the Board of Finance did cut our budget capital by like 500,000 last year.
I understand that, but it doesn't mean that they stole the money. They didn't give you the increase that
I
you
know,
wanted.
I know.
And I don't understand, I guess that I wear the old Board of Finance chairman hat too
So-
much to go back.
So I will
to
ask the
point,
board, I
being
will ask,
legitimate with numbers.
You know, what would be the difference going to the
Board of Finance?
Board of Finance.
vote 4.4 to 4.7? Because that's what we're discussing here. Something, we already approved that, okay? If we approve a 3.0, we're still gonna go with the 4.4. right?
Except that it's
Now
not a
we're going to the
permanent increase.
4.7. It's not such a big difference. If the voter is going to say no, it was going to say no to the 4.4 or 4.7. So we need to do that. I think, I mean, I don't want to increase taxes. I pay a lot of taxes, right? And I don't have kids in the school. But I do want to support good school. I think, and I agree, we should have, I mean, I wanted to see it at 3.0. But in seeing the needs that I just mentioned, then I cannot go back to the 3.0 because I don't think it does any good for anything, for the system, for the educational system. And I think that's the point. If we're going with 4.7 instead of 4.4, so it's almost the same thing.
May I, Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Going back to the 4.0, adding the one-time expenditures into our budget raises our MBR, our minimum budget requirement. So therefore, we have to try and keep that as low as possible because we can't ever go lower than that unless we have a significant decline in enrollment, which it's going up. Let's
Right.
keep it going in that direction. So pulling these aside is fine. However, I'm concerned about adding this $669,000 to our capital improvement as opposed to
A one-time.
making it a part of our regular budget, and when they ask us to pull these out, already having it prepared and ready to go. That was the point of me making that in the first. If we come out now and say 4.4 after having had all this discussion, they're going to tell us we're wasting money.
Yeah.
And then they're going to make us pay for it by repeatedly making us go to referendum and making the Board of Finance, forcing the Board of Finance's hand to cut our budget. The best thing that can happen is when the Board of Finance has their next meeting, not their next meeting, 2 meetings from now, because next meeting they'll just formally accept the budgets. 2 meetings from now, getting our darling Mr. Korzinski and all of his friends out to the Board of Finance meeting to say,
Advocate.
this is what we need, this is what we demand, this is what you have to support. We did it 3 years ago, and it passed on the first referendum. The mayor was picking up extra chairs from anywhere he could find them in the town hall and bringing them up to that meeting room. So making it a part of our,
I'm not understanding, I'm not following.
making the capital improvement part of our regular budget raises the
Okay.
MBR, and then we can never go lower than it again, which makes it financially sound to pull out one-time expenses that we don't need on a yearly basis and giving them to them separately. Asking 3.32 is what bare bones we absolutely need right now just to maintain services. And we've named the things that are going to be on the cutting block. We've named-
3.32.
3.32. We've named the Young Parents Program. We've named Before and After School Program. We've named permanent subs in the building as things that are going to be on the chopping block by force of hand if our budget is cut. All of the other things are one-time expenses. We need them. They are imperative. Technology is very imperative, especially in the age we're in, and we haven't been able to invest in it enough. But those are separate things that we only need to pay for once. These other things are ongoing yearly, and once we cut them from our ongoing yearly budget, they're gone for good. They're never coming back.
But I do understand that.
Okay.
I don't
Well, you
know.
said
I
you
mean-
didn't understand why we couldn't ask for 4.7.
No,
That's
I
fine.
say that we should ask
We
for
should.
4.7, that it makes no difference.
I understand.
4.4 than 4.7.
Yeah.
That's what I try to say.
Right.
anyway.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
If I may, I think the discussion,
I mean, I was in favor.
May I?
Yes.
I agree with Mrs. Lambert. I think one of the things we need to do is how do we protect that 669,750 need to be protected, because that's what we want to use for technology in the schools. And if we're saying that we prepare students for the 21st century and we're doing all these things to prepare them, technology is not where it's supposed to be right now. So this is just a drop in the bucket when it comes to technology for the entire school district. So I think the conversation is, what strategy do we put in place to protect that money? And don't get it lost in the other capital improvement that when they start cutting. Because the other plan, the capital improvement plan, the things that are there are building repairs, that the building are ours, that belong to the town. These are, changing the bathrooms, and that also are very important. I'm not going to say the parking lot, et cetera. But I will say the conversation, and for me, one of the most important thing is how to protect the $669,000 right now.
So, do you remember exactly how we went about getting recall, I think, first or second year you and I were on the board, the town, there was a town meeting that approved, I think, $575,000 for textbook one-shot expenditure? That wasn't part of the capital fund budget. It wasn't.
It was a separate-
It's a separate thing.
Brought that
So,
forward and got the
what
board
you're
to
saying
vote
you
on
want to do now is take this
669,000.
and do it like that, as a separate request to the town, to the Board of Finance for technology funding.
I think that would protect it more than putting it in the capital improvement, because
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year, the Board
Okay.
of Finance said, give us your one-time expenses, and we
Yes.
gave them, and we pulled them out of our budget, and they said, thank you very much, and they set them aside, and it was never dealt with. They
So-
didn't vote for or against them, I don't believe, last year in my followings of
Right.
what went on. They just didn't deal with it.
So, all right, so what I'm proposing is we make that a motion, but we'll have to add it to the agenda, all right, because it should be separate from the general fund, because that's required by the charter that we send a general fund budget to the town, right?
Okay.
This one is not required by the charter, but we want to do it, so I propose.
But the Board of Finance had called a town meeting to have it happen. It happened at a town meeting.
Yeah.
Because I was there at the meeting.
If
Yeah, oh,
we
yeah.
present it,
Oh,
then
yeah.
we can still call another
But
meeting.
there's a process for doing it, that's what we want, so our choice is to make a request to do that as a separate process, as opposed to, the other choice would be to put it as part of the capital fund budget.
That
But
was
the
my-
concern is if it's part of the capital fund budget, it'll get lost
You
in
get lost in the
the...
capital fund.
in the
That's why I
capital-
made
all
it
right.
part of my original motion, because I wanted to protect it.
Well, yeah, but I guess my argument is that it should happen, but it shouldn't be part of the motion for the general fund budget.
As you
So
said, Dr. Sewell.
what I'd like to do is I'd like to move that we adding a request for $669,000 to support technology.
750.
750.
$669,750 to support technology.
Let me-
To the
It's going to
agenda.
be a separate motion, right?
Yeah.
Now, This is a motion to add it to the
Or
agenda.
you just,
Add it to the agenda.
First thing we have to do is we have to add,
You keeping up
Motion
with
to
us,
the
Ms.
agenda.
Testa?
yeah.
okay?
And then,
Add it to the agenda.
You know who's in
Better
favor?
get a
so
second.
what do we want to do with the 600,000?
You want to second that, Tracy?
Sure, I'll second that.
Tracy seconded.
This is technology.
All right.
But we had already technology as a what? As the capital fund?
All right. So,
Now, question is, you might want to attach to that undesignated fund balance to be drawn from that, because that will clearly make it go towards a town meeting if the Board of Finance accepts it. Instead of going to whether it's a combination of bonding, undesignated fund balance, and so on.
Do we have that
maybe
purview?
I don't have a whole, do we care how the Board of Finance chooses to approach
Well, I'm
funding
just trying
it?
to, if you're trying to pigeonhole and safeguard it, then they get a clear picture of where you're going with it, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, if that makes sense.
Oh, you make sense now.
I'm sorry, I slipped up.
I don't approve of the Board of Finance telling us how to run the Board of Education. I'm not really interested in telling the Board of Finance how to do their job, right?
So wait, did we
So-
have a vote on that yet?
So we
No,
just added it to
we
the
just
agenda.
added it. Now we got it, now we presumably have a discussion.
Yes,
Oh, well, all right.
Ms. Testa has a question?
we just added it.
We have a motion and a
That's it.
second to add it to the agenda.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
now we have
right.
a motion and a second. Right,
Correct.
Okay, so we haven't added it yet, right?
no.
All
That's
right,
why I asked
let's-
if we
yes, you're
voted
correct.
to add it.
Yes.
I seconded it, so you need to call the
All
vote.
those in motion?
All those in favor?
Favor, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Emotional.
We're getting a little punch drunk here. All right,
All those in favor? Can you do it again, please?
Oh, okay.
all right.
That was
Now we've added it, all right.
Okay. Now discussion, do we need to have discussion?
Now, let's move the motion.
Now I make a motion to ask the Board of Finance to fund our technology from wherever they see fit, to be honest. I don't think it's fair of us, as Dr. Sewell said, to tell
Correct.
them where to fund it from. $669,750 for technology as needed by the district, separate from the capital improvement plan.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, I need
Second
some
by who?
Dr. Sewell
clarification.
seconded it.
Can you clarify? Just clarity. Dr.
Yeah,
Gomez?
so we're going to ask the Board of Finance to spend $600,000 as a one-time in technology,
Correct.
Correct.
not part of the capital,
part of the
which
capital
is what
plan.
we were doing before.
Right. Well, they were asking us to pull out one-time expenses previously. We were doing that,
So
and
we
then they were
reduced it.
moving
Yeah,
it into
okay.
our capital improvement
Got
plan.
it. Now
We've
I'm
asked them to
clear.
fund it separate from the capital improvement plan, because we'd like to add emphasis to this as something we need, but it is a one-time expense. Does anybody disagree with that assessment?
No?
No?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you for clarity. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Janet, you got it?
You got it? All right.
Difficult.
I tried to say it as succinctly as
All right,
possible.
what we're going to do in the budget?
I'm sorry.
The budget.
Now you have to approve the budget.
3% increase.
Yeah, I need a motion to approve the
Yeah.
budget. You did move it.
We did it.
Yes.
Yeah, you even voted for it.
There's been so many back and forth about this number.
You didn't know what you just voted for?
No, I thought you missed it.
I'm gonna nudge you when you raise your hand, whenever I nudge you.
My head is spinning with all these numbers.
Every time I nudge Mr. Flores Alvarez, he's gonna raise his hand.
Because it was just.
Abstain, abstain, okay.
Mr. French, correct.
This time, on the second vote? you
On the
already
second
said-
one?
No, we're
The first vote,
clarifying
we
the
went to
first
First
vote.
vote, on the, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Me kick.
Okay.
Next
Now,
on the
this is where
agenda
the personnel recommendations.
is the approval of personnel recommendations.
Yeah, we have a very short list of personnel recommendation.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I move the approval of the personnel recommendations in reference 5.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?
Nudge.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
Thank you.
Whoever there wants to raise, I'll nudge Mr. Flores Alvarez.
And,
we were just going back and forth.
Move to adjourn?
no,
The next one is.
no.
Information cafe, right? Cafe workers.
Public
cafe
comment you
workers.
have next.
We have public comment next,
We
Mr.
have to go, do
Montalvo.
you have it? It was in the packet? You have it there, right? Okay. So we go into executive session and come
No,
out.
public comment is next.
Welcome.
I have the sign-up sheet, so, yeah. No.
No,
You're
just
welcome to come
come
up.
You can only talk about the topics discussed tonight.
We
About the action items.
covered quite a bit of ground.
All right, well, it's covered.
All right.
So I don't have to announce who I am again. So,
Well, welcome back.
can we put this table in the budget? Can we afford that? A little duct tape at least. You know what, actually, this is a 180-degree turn from this type of meeting that was last year, in my opinion. Last year, at this time, this discussion was,
Very lengthy,
what's the word?
very long.
It was long, and it was, it wasn't a great way to start the budget process, and a great way to get all the parties that need to be involved for us to get this budget passed the first time excited. I want to commend you all for, you put back some things back in here that were of concern for some of us, including the young parents, the after-school program, which I think would be detrimental, and the substitute teacher thing, just for those who aren't so sure about it, both at the middle school and the high school have all said the same thing. You're going to end up spending the money and save money by having some permanent substitute teachers. So I hope going forward, as far as the Board of Ed is concerned, that you all can continue to work in unity. It was difficult last year being a parent and being a guy who wants to trumpet for this district to get this budget passed, to get people behind it the first few times. I know Mr. French made a comment about it didn't happen the first few times. Well, the first couple times, there was a few folks who really didn't believe that the Board of Ed could find their way out of a wet paper bag, if need be, based on the arguments and the nonsense that happened last year. So I'm very excited that what happened today. I just wanted to be noted that at no time did the people who voted no last year vote more than 678 no. That was the highest no votes last year out of the referendums. In the fall, we had 1,150 for yes. We know that in our Voices and Volunteers group on Facebook, we already have more members on that group to vote that equal the maximum number of no's that can come in a budget. What that means to me is, the reason I'm saying that is I appreciate what Dr. Sewell said, is give the public the opportunity to vote no. And it is our job. It falls on us as parents and folks in the community to get our neighbors, to get our friends, to get our whatever, to go support the budget, or I guess if we choose, to not support the budget. So I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate you guys looking for the ways to support our schools. I do believe we're still, there's still dollars and there's still some positions that we probably are not, we're not filling in this school, and some things not getting done. But as I said to other SGC members and other folks, anyone who's asked me, I was pleasantly surprised at the budgets that came forth for the middle school and the high school, and I hope that this is just the beginning of a successful budget campaign here. And that's it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Could the capital budget, as Tracy said, you wanted to vote on it?
We have to have a meeting to vote on that, or
Could
vote on
that-
it?
Could that be maybe Monday?
Yes, hi.
Tuesday.
Okay, hi there.
Or Tuesday.
So my name is Agnes Bernard. I have two
Can you pull the mic a
children.
little closer?
Oh,
Thank you.
all right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Agnes Bernard. I have two children in the district, one at the Charles H. Barrow STEM Academy in 7th grade, and then one at the Natchog School. So this budget was of concern to me, as my child will be going into high school, and I'm looking at all my options. And of course, she's coming from a school that's high in math, high in science. They have all the technology they need. So certainly, I would hope that the high school would be able to continue, those high expectations, that technology. They're doing really amazing things there. And I wouldn't want, for the high school to be a step down from the middle school. So I think we need to keep it moving forward. The news for the district is encouraging. And that means the whole district is working hard, but all that work cannot be done without money. So that's the bottom line. And as a taxpayer, a homeowner, a parent, you know, I do ask that the board members let the public make that decision of whether the budget will be approved or not, that the numbers, you know, I have to agree that 3 is not a magic number, that there are needs that the children have in this district, that they do deserve, every child in this district deserves the education. You know, so, you know, instead of picking arbitrary numbers, just because I think it's important to have a real number, for the kids and, you know, have them get what they need. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Ms. Velarde. Okay, next on our agenda is executive session. I need a motion, or do you want to take a break for 5 minutes?
I need a break.
Break?
I drank water, I need a break.
Okay. Is it recess for 5 minutes? Then we
Make a
come
motion to
back?
go into executive session.
Shut down anyway.
Second.
We're recess.
No, I make a motion to go into executive session. You have to have that before we
After 5
recess.
Yes, after 5 minutes.
Yes, we can go into, but we still have to have the motion
Yeah,
before
the
it's
motion.
turned.
All right, I second.
I need a second. All those in favor?
We
All right. Go ahead.
Carolyn,